Better than I was the last time, baby. Ooh, 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 ooh. And we back, and we back, and we back, and we back, and we back. Well, technically not we. It's just me. It's your boy Kyng Ralph. I'm your host, and you are now watching the Juke Boy Sports Show. I appreciate you all for pulling up. Hope everybody's doing good out there in TV land. But like we always do, before we get started, send a shout out to the sponsors. So if you want to do a podcast like what you're watching, photo shoot, music video, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fit Boxer. And if you're looking for a clean, no crash, jitterless energy drink, go to dubby.com, type in JUK Juke, promo code Juke for 20% off. We're going to get you right. And then while you're here, please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow us if you're on Facebook. I will soon be getting the He Say She Say channel will be coming down. I'm moving everything over to the Juke Network, JUK Network. Once I get everything, once I get to like 100 followers on Facebook, I'll be able to go live from there, and I won't need the other page. But you can follow me at KYNGRALPH on TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, and then add an underscore for X or Twitter. And let's get straight into it, man. There was some good football over the weekend, but we're preparing for the weekend coming up. AFC Championship game. We got the Chiefs hosting the Buffalo Bills. I just got done watching clips and stuff like that of the previous game. The safety rap will not be playing. They will be starting a rookie. Ironically, he was on the receiving end of Mahomes' first pass in the previous game this year, where Mahomes threw 2 interceptions. He caught the first one. But he will not be playing in this game. This is one of those ones where, man, do you go with the team that won in the first game? I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult because, as you've seen in these playoffs, protecting the football is everything. The football is gold, like Cam Newton has said in the previous podcast. I think that Mahomes throwing 2 picks is one of those reasons why when teams are close or even one team is above, i.e. last week, the Ravens are a better team. When you have that many turnovers, it gives the other team an opportunity to get in the game and control the game. And Mahomes in the playoffs is not known to do that. So that's why I would assume the Chiefs would win. I think that Josh Allen is going to be able to do enough to keep them in the game. In the end, I just would expect the Chiefs to win. Honestly, I think they have too much. They got Hopkins, Kelsey, Mahomes, Hunt back there running the football. I thought Isaiah Pacheco was back, but recently I've been seeing Hunt getting a lot more of the burn. Although I didn't watch too much of the Texans game, so maybe I'm just not seeing that. The clips I saw, he wasn't in the game. But in the end, I do think the Chiefs are going to be able to. That defense is going to be hawking. They're going to be able to get after the quarterback and disrupt things. These are games where to act as if the Bills don't have a comparable team or a good team, you have Amari Cooper who can beat one-on-one coverage, tough catches, route you up. You have a Dalton Kincaid who is a very good young tight end. You have James Cook. So it's whether or not those pieces can they be an X factor in this game. You have Von Miller. He's an much older Von Miller than the one that was in that Super Bowl against Cam Newton and the Panthers, but he's been there before and still is an effective pass rusher. So can the refs stay out of the game and let the Bills be able to have an opportunity? That's the part where I'm not 100% sure. I want to go Bills here really bad, but in the end, I just think that I think the Chiefs are going to be a little bit too much. They've been there. I think they get back to the Super Bowl. And so moving over to the NFC Championship game, the Commanders and Eagles, division rivals, played twice this year. I believe Eagles and Commanders, I think the Eagles won both games this year. Let's check. Actually, Commanders won the most recent one by a field goal. Eagles won the previous one by a touchdown. So in this moment, do you go with the team that's been there? It's one of those things where I'm rooting for Jaden Daniels. As y'all know, I've been rooting for my boy all year. I said that he was the best quarterback in this draft, this previous draft. I feel like he was the most pro-ready quarterback, being able to play within the scheme of the offense while also extending the play. Now, he's one of those ones that's not necessarily as shifty like a Lamar. He has more of the RG3 in him where he's a straight line runner with speed. And so what he's been able to do is nothing short of phenomenal. I think at this point, the Commanders are playing with house money. And I feel like all the pressure is on the Eagles. But storylines on both sides. I would love to see Saquon be able to get to a Super Bowl, be a contributing factor in winning the Super Bowl. I think in the end, it would do so much for the running back position to get to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, and be a Super Bowl MVP. So for me, I just think the Eagles defense is going to be a little too much for Jaden in this game. So I am going to go Eagles, although my picks, who I really truly would like to see win, it goes against what I've said here on this podcast. I would love to see the Bills and Josh Allen get that team to a Super Bowl, but I just feel like the powers that be, the refs, and how good the Chiefs actually are, it's just going to, in the end, it's going to end up being the Chiefs. And then with the Eagles, I feel like that defense is so good. A.J. Brown, Smitty, what's my man? I can't think. Dallas Goedert, Saquon, along with, as long as Hurts can protect the football. The reason why the Commanders are here is because Jared Goff could not protect the football. As long as Hurts cannot turn over the football and he protects the football, I think the Eagles will be able to pull it out in the end. And so my Raiders end up hiring Pete Carroll. And this one here is one of those ones where there's people on both sides. There's a 50-50 to it. There's people that feel like he's too old. What he was able to do when he first got to Seattle versus what he did when he was pretty much booted out the building. You got to see two different Pete Carrolls. I think that given this job, no real quarterback of the future. Yes, is Aiden O'Connell a decent quarterback? He's decent. I feel like he's lower middle pack quarterback of all the starters, maybe even the lower pack of the starters. I feel like he should have been the starter going into the season. Gardner Minshew is Gardner Minshew at the end of the day. He's a career backup for a reason. So you don't have a real quarterback of the future here. AP, for whatever reason, decided to try to win games. Me personally, I feel like it was a fuck you to the organization. I'm not going to help you guys get a number one pick when I'm not going to be here next year. So I'm going to win as many games as possible. We move down to where we're outside of the top 5 when it comes to draft picks. Let's see what their draft position is. Number 6, they're out of the top 5, but not too far out. You could probably package some picks to be able to get up, move forward. In the next coming weeks, I am going to start talking about mock drafts, position rankings, who I think of the positions is where they stand, where they should go, who I would like to see the Raiders draft as well. But no real quarterback. They say that Pete Carroll is a defensive-minded coach. He comes in with a lot of cachet, a resume, winner everywhere. It's been a while since he's won. I think the before he was booted out the building, Seahawks hadn't won a playoff game since 2019. And so I do think this is one of those things where this is more about establishing culture. Him being older, I think when the season starts, he'll be like about to turn 74. He turned 74 in September. I don't remember exactly when his birthday was, but him being older, 3-year deal, 4-year team option, I believe. I think that this is more so of a culture builder going forward and moving forward, having some kind of organizational um, cachet going forward, where you're not just one and done every year with head coaches. I don't see that happening. I see him at least coaching 2 years before he makes his way out. Now, one of the major things in this whole ordeal is who is going to end up being his offensive coordinators or his coordinators. Now, in the past, he had Gus Bradley. I don't want cover three. I don't like Gus Bradley. We had him before. Please don't bring him back. So there's a couple different realms that you can go with that. Honestly, I know it's from a different regime, but our defensive coordinator over the last couple of years, I feel like did a great job. We had a really good defense over the last couple of years. I feel like when you watch the games, I watched a lot of the games in the beginning of the season. We were in a lot of games. Our defense was able to keep us in games. It just was too many 3-and-outs. Your defense get tired, then the game gets blown open. And now we're down 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And those are the things that I feel like with Pete Carroll, he can at least get us to the point where we're in games. I think by next year, we have a lot of cap space this year where we'll see who he's able to get in. Got to fix the offensive line. Maybe get another weapon as far as from a wide receiver standpoint. You got Brock Bowers. You got Michael Mayer. Max Crosby. Tyree Wilson started to kind of come alive a little bit last year. The defense was playing well. You just got to find that quarterback. Replace Josh Jacobs as well. Shore up that offensive line and get a wide receiver weapon. All of these things can be done through free agency. T. Higgins is someone that's going to be looking for a major deal. Ashton Jeanty, Scatterbo are 2 running backs that will possibly be in the draft. I know Jeanty is. I got to look up and see if Scatterbo is going to be in the draft. But I think that there's going to be running back weapons that you can get through this draft to be able to replace a Josh Jacobs. Now, in the end, Josh Jacobs is one of the better running backs in the league. I feel like he's so underrated for what he does. And we always talk about the Derrick Henrys, the Saquons, the Christian McCaffreys. And I feel like right after that, you got to start talking about Josh Jacobs. And so watching him leave the building last year, so much misfunction on this team. I think that it would be a pleasure for me as a fan, but also now I'm putting my sports analyst hat on. I like the hire from a culture building standpoint. And so next up, another hire, Aaron Glenn goes to the New York Jets, a former player. Fun fact, he was Pete Carroll's first draft pick in 1994 when he was coaching the Jets. And now he is their head coach, defensive coordinator over the last couple of years for the Detroit Lions. Riddled with injuries, but still keeping them playing hard, creating turnovers, getting after the quarterback. I feel like he's going to, with the weapons that they have, as long as they can still keep them in the building, you have, if you can bring back a Hassan Reddick, you got Sauce, DJ Reed, the Williams brothers. You have weapons on defense to be able to create havoc and cause havoc. Now, do you bring back Aaron Rodgers? What do you do if you don't bring back Aaron Rodgers? What do you do at the quarterback position? What do you do with Devontae Adams? Do you trade him? Do you let him walk? Garrett Wilson, a weapon. Bryce Hall, I forget the young kid's name, Allen. I forget his name. I don't want to say his last. I know his last name is Allen. Young, but they got two good running backs, Garrett Wilson. They had a decent offensive line, and then they got hurt. So there's stuff there to work with. It's just a matter of what do you do with that quarterback position, because this league now is so quarterback dependent that you don't have one of those guys, one of them dogs. Even like Baker Mayfield is someone that has shown what he's been able to do, and what him playing good football has the Bucks in a weak division able to be in the playoffs every year. And so I think it's a good hire. I like the defensive prowess that Aaron Glenn brings in the door. What was able to do, those coordinators is really, for me personally, I feel like the coordinators for the Lions is really what shaped that team. Now we'll see what happens with Dan Campbell and what he's able to do as far as replacing Ben Johnson, replacing Aaron Glenn. But in the end, I do think that this is a good hire for the Jets. But what do they do with that quarterback position? And that's going to be the make or break for him at the end of the day. Can they bring in a good quarterback, find someone? Do they bring back Aaron as for a bridge year and until you can get a guy next year? Or do they try to package and try to get a Shador or Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe or whatnot? So we'll see what happens with them, but we're going into this 2-minute drill. And I mentioned it earlier, the calls, the refs. Mahomes comes out and says he disagrees that the Chiefs get favorable calls. I call bullshit. Now, the one thing I'll say, and I've seen Shannon Sharp and Ocho on Nightcap talking about, statistics don't really prove that the Chiefs get more calls than others. My whole thing is it's not about the calls. I've always said it's not the amount of calls. It's when they happen. And I would like to see the numbers that he posted or that he talked about. Is that for this year? Because I would like to know what are those numbers. Because he said something along the lines of like he was hit or knocked to the ground 165 times. Of those, only 6 of those were called unnecessary roughness penalties or roughing the passer penalties against the other team. I would like to know, just go back through the last 3 to 4 years of just playoff football, how many calls are being called in favor of this team versus the Chiefs? Because I just feel like that's where the numbers will tell. Yes, the Chiefs are on TV. The things that we see are put in our face. It's one of those things where like Josh Allen was balling so much this year. Then because Lamar Jackson's last 4 to 5 games were all on national televised spots. He had the Christmas game. Then he had a Monday night game, Sunday night game, the New Year's Eve game. And then it's like you get all of these things that are right in front of your face that it's hard for you to try to say anybody else is better than him when you just keep seeing something. So it's one of those things where the Chiefs are constantly in your face. So it seems like they're always getting these calls. But my thing is, it's not how many calls they get. It's when it happens. They'll be in the playoffs. The Texans game, you watch that game, the Texans are in that game. Then the Will Anderson call. Helmets clearly don't collide. And it's one of those things where I get it. It's happening so fast. Guys are so much bigger, faster, stronger. But I just feel like with all these cameras and replays, we should be able to make that call and get that call corrected. Because then in the end, that was a third down where they're supposed to be off the field, and now you're back on the field, and they end up getting points out of this. Then the next time it happens, I believe it was a second down. I don't think it was a third down. But instead of running out of bounds, he runs back inbounds, or he stays inbounds, slides late, they get a call. And these are those moments that are momentum shifters. And that's why, for me, why I say it's not how many calls, it's when they happen is why I feel like it's a little weird. It's a little shaky. It gives you like you squint your eyes a little bit. Like even last year, Travis Kelce talks so much shit. Roquan Smith starts talking shit. Now they call him for taunting. Well, why didn't you call that on Travis? And he literally talks shit after every play. And it's like those are things, they're momentum shifters. You get back, you're supposed to be off the field. They get an automatic first down, and then now you're back on the field, and they end up scoring. It always leads to points somehow. And that's why I just feel like those are the things that why I disagree. I completely disagree with and like I said, I've said this before. I'm a hating ass Raider fan, I guess. I mentioned earlier, I'm a Raider fan. I hate the Chiefs. As much as I don't want to pick the Chiefs to be in the Super Bowl, they're a good team, but it's also hard when you got the refs on the other side, where they're giving them certain calls in particular moments that are continuing drives, or they're drive killers on the other side. And so I disagree. It is what it is. Facts don't say, the numbers don't suggest it, but when you watch the games, your eyes aren't fooling you. And so next up, Jordan Poole had a hell of a game against the Warriors, his former team. After the game, they were asking him about the love that he was receiving. He said, I love those guys over there. Well, I love most those guys over there. And it's like, it's creating this conversation again, the Draymond Green punch video that we've all seen. And it's just like, bro, at this point, bro, that was a couple of years ago. You've been with the Wizards for 2 years now, maybe going on 3 years. And I think it's been 2 years. I think last year was his first year with the team. And at this point, it's been 2 years, man. Almost 3 years since that happened because you played a full season after that. Let it go. I get it. I understand. Someone punched me in my shit like that. I'm going to be pissed too. I'm not fucking with you. Now, regardless of why Draymond did it, he said he called him a bitch. I've seen on camera Draymond calling people bitches. He even on camera called Kevin Durant a bitch. He said that those are words that you just don't say to a teammate or another man. That's why he punched him. Now, for whatever reason, right or wrong or indifferent, as men, we make mistakes. We grow from them. Doesn't mean you got to forgive them or fuck with them after this, but let it go. Every chance you get, and you start talking about it, you make that little subtle jab at how you don't fuck with him. And you have the right to feel that way. But at some point, we got to stop talking about it. Just move on, bro. Let it go. And so Coach Saban was on the pivot. And I enjoy this podcast. It's actually been a minute since I actually watched it, but it was one of my favorite ones. I always got a lot of my topics on here. But Coach Saban was on the pivot and he was talking about reasons for why he retired, stepped away from coaching. And it just goes to, as an older man, you see a lot of coaches in the NFL are being younger and younger, 38 to 45, just more relatable to these current players and the new players coming in, where a lot of college coaches typically are being older gentlemen, and they're going away from it. And so Saban, being older, said that players are too soft to coach. And as a person that I think this started with, I'm 10 years older than my brother. I remember going to my brother's games when he was younger. And this was like the first time I ever seen like where the whole league, as old as these kids were not keeping score. And I feel like, and from an era in which you won or you just lost, it is what it is. You learn how to take losses. It builds character. Losses build character. Then coaches back then, they were grabbing you by the face mask, kicking you in the behind, yelling at you, cursing at you, screaming at you. And it's like now if you do that to a child, it's like, oh, that's verbal abuse. You're abusing that child. Everybody's been, this generation has been coddled so much to the degree of it's harmed sports in a way where it's hard to coach a kid. You coach too hard, they jumping in the portal. They don't really play through adversity. They just run and jump to a new situation. I've talked about it multiple times, how many players, instead of like Arch Manning is an outlier in this generation. Most players, if they don't get the opportunity to start, they're leaving. They're hopping in that portal. where Arch Manning has sat behind for a year or 2 years now, should be the starter. He played well when he got the opportunity. I feel like Quinn Ewers, you got to go, bro. Go to the league, bro, and let this kid get his turn. And I talked about Buddy from UNLV that went to USC. It was the backup from USC last year. Went to Boise, didn't get an opportunity. Now he's transferring again, and it's like, bro, show that you can play instead of running from competition. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to play through competition. Because once you make it to the league, ain't no asking for a trade because you're not starting. Like, first off, who are you? They just going to look at you crazy. So, like, you got to learn to play through adversity because those losses in life, they build character. And so my last one, trying to remember if I talked about this last on Tuesday. I don't remember really truly talking about it, but Garcia and Haney are on the same card in May. How big is this card for the sport of boxing? And this is the thing, and it's been a reoccurring theme all through boxing. It's annoying in boxing because they don't always fight. The top fighters don't always fight the next top fighter. And that's the thing where in UFC, we got those big fights. When Pereira came over to the UFC, he had a long history with Adesanya. We wanted to see that fight. We got that fight multiple times. We wanted to see the Daniel Cormier, John Jones fight. And so in boxing, we have Canelo, who is one of the best boxer, the most high-profile name in boxing. Why is he not fighting? What's my man's name? Dang, I forget his name. The Mexican monster, though. Benavidez. Like, why is he not fighting him? Why did it take so long for Crawford and Spence to fight? Why is Haney not fighting Shakur, or Bulldog Cruz or Pitbull Cruz is not fighting? He's been ducking Shakur for forever. Like, in this one division, we've been waiting years for Haney to fight. Dang, why am I drawing blanks? But to get back to the topic, this is a big card for the sport because, one, the storyline for just these two fighters, Garcia misses weight, tests positive for steroids. Haney had all of the cachet, undefeated fighter. Whether or not you think he beat Lomachenko, whole nother thing. But goes in and gets dog walked. So now they're fighting on the same card. They both win. We would assume they fight each other next on the next card. They've come to a settlement for the steroid thing. Haney was embarrassed by the fight, so he sued. I don't know what's up this generation and losing and suing, but shit's wild to me. Although Drake is technically older than me. So he's of my generation and Haney is not. That's neither here nor there. But I think it's a big fight for the sport. I really enjoy it. I can't wait to see the fight. I hope it happens again. I want to see what happens if Haney can come back and make a fight of it. But thank you all for watching. I do got to get up out of here. But like I mentioned before, if you're here on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're not, go type in JUK Network on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. Trying to get my subscribers up there. Follow us if you're here on Facebook. If you're on the He Say, She Say channel, go to Juke Network, JUK Network on Facebook. Follow us there. Once I get to 100 followers, I will be shutting that page down, moving everything over so I can go live there. Once I get to 100, I can be able to go live and do what I want with the page. You can follow me at KYNGRALPH on TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, add an underscore for X or Twitter. Help me out on Twitch, please, please, please. I am trying to get to Twitch affiliate, so I would appreciate that. And you can also follow us, the sports page itself, on Instagram, JUK Sports Show, Juke Sports Show. Thank you all for watching. Have a good day.